Welcome to 2.5 applications of percent. Now, this is the top. Some of it, like this stuff over here, don't worry about that so much. That's something that we're going to be covering later on, that is positive and negative exponents. But what I want to look at is essentially this piece right here, and it's multiplying by powers of 10 and dividing by powers of 10. Now, 1 we say is 1, but if we divide 1 by 10, we get 0.1. If we divide 1 by 100, which is 2 tens, we get 0.01. If we divide 1 by 1,000, we get 0.001. So if we divide, every time we divide by 10, we're moving the decimal once over to the left. So notice we divided by 1 10, the decimal moves over, and that's how we get here. If we divide by 2 tens, move the decimal over twice, divide by 3 tens, move it over 3 times, etc., etc., etc. So that's kind of what's going on. Now, when we multiply by 10, we're just adding a 0. So 1 times 10, that's 10. 10 times 10, that's 100. We're counting for 2 of those zeros. 3 times 10, 3 zeros right there, and that's it. So recall that if we have a decimal, 0.25, we can turn that into the percent, 25%, because really percent means of 100 or divided by 100. So 25 divided by 100 is our 0.25. That's how we're kind of moving from decimals to percents and percents to decimals. So we're going to be using these percents in a couple different ways. These first ones on the first part of this are going to be direct translations, and this works about 95% of the time for these problems. On the second page, we're going to be getting into some more application-based problems where we're going to have to kind of think through it a little bit more, but for the time being, we're going to do these direct translations. And now there's a couple things. Of means multiplication. That always means times. Is always going to mean equals. What number is going to be a variable, and what percent is going to be a variable in decimal forms. So when we work with these, we're going to get the percents in decimal forms a lot of the time, and then we can turn it into the actual percentage if we want that. So let's just looking at these. So if we see what percent, that's going to be a variable, so let's call that x. Now, of means multiply, so times 180 means 180. Is means equals, and 36 is just 36. So we have what percent of 180, so x times 180 is equals 36. So to solve this, we're going to divide both sides by 180. And calculator, this is going to tell me x equals 0.2, which we could say is 20%. Okay? So moving on to the second one, 2 is just 2, is means equals. What percent is going to be x, of is times, and 40 is 40. So there we got this right here. So now we want to solve this for x, divide by 40, divide by 40, and we get x equals 0.05, which, if we're going to translate that into a percentage, x equals 5%. So what we can say is that 2 is 5% of 40, and that's exactly what we're saying right there. So what number is 2% of 40? So doing some translation, what number? We're looking for a number. We don't know what that is. We're going to define that to be the variable x. Is means equals 2%. Now we want to write this as a decimal. 2% is 0.02. 20% is our 0.2. So we want to make sure that we're consistent and we get the right number here. Of means multiply, so times 40. So multiply by 40. So if we do this, 0.02 times 40, that is going to give us 0.8. So x is 0.8. So 0.8 is 2% of 40. That's another way of saying that there. So moving down to this next one, once again, translation. What number? That's going to be x is equals 40%. We want to write that as the decimal, 0.40. Of means multiplication, which I'll denote with parentheses here, of 2. So 40% of 2, put that in your calculator, and you're going to get 0.8. So x equals 0.8. So that, in fact, is what we're looking for. So 2 more of these direct translation, then on the second part of the video we'll get into something a little bit different than these. So 8 is going to translate to 8 means equals 2%, 0.02 of what number? Of meaning multiplication, so times what number meaning x. So 8 equals 0.02 x, or times x. We're going to undo this multiplication with division. 0.02 divided by 0.02. So 8 divided by 0.02 is going to give us 400. So 400 equals x. So 2% of 400 is 8, or 8 is 2% of 400. Makes sense to me. So hopefully, these are consistent with what you'd think they'd be. And the final one is what percent. So what percent, again, we have x of means times 60 is equals 75. So what percent x of times 60 is meaning equals 75. So do this division here to isolate our variable x, and you'll see that 75 divided by 60 is 1.25. So we can say x is 125%. That is, 75 is 125% of 60, which makes sense. 100% of 60 is 60. We need something that's more than 100% to get 75, and we're good. So hopefully those things made sense. Yeah, if not, watch the video or send me an email.